Welcome to the Diary of the Discarded Daughter podcast, formerly the Chronicles of the Christian Drama Queen. I am your host and the founder of Christian Drama Queen Solutions, Lisa Schaefer, and I'm glad that you are here. I can promise you that I know what it's like to think like a lover of Jesus, but live like a hot mess every day, and if you can relate, you're in the right place. Overcoming wounds of abandonment and abuse myself, and dealing with infertility and the guilt that comes with all of that, I know what it's like to think like a victim and desperately search for purpose in your painful past. After 40 years of searching for hope and healing, the Lord has called me to share my journey with you. So, here we go. All right, here we go indeed. Thanks for joining me today, guys. I notice, just probably like you, that the more the Lord leads me to share, the harder it is for me to get to the computer to share. And it is a problem. It is a problem. So yeah, I totally, if you're probably been there, if you're somebody who feels called to share the message that the Lord's given to you, there's a very good chance that it's just difficult for you to get that done, right? So I am here today. We're going to do part 2 of a concept that a lot of people really struggle with. Last time we talked about this, I told you the story of Jacob and Esau and how Jacob knew he needed forgiveness and invested in his relationship with Esau. You'll remember he sent all kinds of gifts and he sent messengers, made sure that the messengers called Esau my Lord. So Jacob was obviously looking for forgiveness, and Esau wanted to give forgiveness. But what he had to sacrifice in order to give it was his own desire for retribution, his own desire for revenge, his own desire to have some sort of big time fight with his brother, having to implement the idea of me investing in my abuser, me investing in someone who's hurt me. That's a lot harder to do. It's just a lot harder to do. Think of it for just a moment. I'm telling you, the Lord not only wants us to say we're forgiving, He wants us to prove it, to show it by investing or sacrificing and blessing those that have hurt us. This is an incredibly difficult concept, and I understand why you don't trust me. I understand why you think I am sort of full of it. I get that. So we're going to talk today. I'm going to tell you my own stories. I'm going to tell you my part 2 of this. All right. Part 1 was about how the Bible shows us people who actually invested in finding forgiveness and needing to be forgiven. Okay. So if you need to be forgiven, that's a whole nother topic. And we can talk about that, because you do need to make an investment sometimes in order to be forgiven, totally released by someone else. Now, whether or not they release you, you still got to ask for it. This theme of forgiveness is all over the Bible. I mean, it's the reason why he came, y'all. It's the reason why he came. So what is it that makes me think I need to offer a sacrifice, or I need to invest in someone who really needs my forgiveness? Is it possible that my forgiveness is incomplete if I don't invest or sacrifice and in some way offer blessing to the one that has injured me? I'm just going to tell you about my own experience, okay? And I know I have several, but I'm going to try and focus on 2 or 3. So at one point in time in my church-going life, there was someone in my life that did not like me. I know, hard to believe, right? She had made a comment about me in church in front of a bunch of people and hurt my feelings. Called me a liar, even though, I wasn't lying. I have lied, but that was not a moment when I had lied. And it made it quite clear that she didn't believe what I was saying. And it injured me. That action injured me to the point that I was traumatized and I was devastated. And I just knew I wasn't going to ever forgive this person. I wasn't going to take that, as they say, her public humiliation of me in the church in front of a bunch of my friends. I was embarrassed and hurt, and I wasn't gonna take it. And so I was really struggling with what to do with that, because I knew I was bitter about it and I knew I was hurt. This was someone who was somewhat elderly. She needed some assistance in her home to do some things in her home. I did not want to be that person, but I had a cleaning business, and it was obvious that I was qualified and had the time. And so guess what? I went to them and I said, how can I help you? Can I come clean your house on Friday mornings when I take my children to mom's day out? And so that's what I did. I asked the couple, and of course the gentleman didn't even realize what had happened and that I had been injured by his wife. But he was more than happy to take my help, and she didn't say a word about taking my help. So several months, I went in every Friday or every other Friday. Seems like I went every other Friday, but maybe I went every Friday. I went in and I just quietly cleaned their house. It was something they couldn't do anymore, and they needed the help doing it. So I went in and cleaned their house and didn't get any compensation. That was the whole point. I wasn't going in to get compensation. The Lord had said to me, you need to invest in this person that you're having trouble forgiving. I didn't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that. Who wants to be actively involved in investing or sacrificing in order to bless someone that's hurt them? Look around you. Nobody's going to say that makes any sense at all. But that's exactly what he led me to do. And so that's exactly what I did. So I went in and I cleaned house, and then I was congenial, and we visited, and I acted like the pain that she had inflicted on me had never happened. I just let it go and invested time and energy. And over time, I began to really love her, even though she had never apologized to me. I began to really love her. Months and months went by, and Christmas came. And over Christmas, we all went to visit. A whole bunch of us from church went to Christmas carol then, because they couldn't get out. They were basically shut-ins. She was struggling with her health, and they were not getting out very often, certainly not getting out in the ice and cold and all of that at Christmas. So a bunch of us went and Christmas caroled, and we all sang and had a good time and gave hugs. And I leaned over to hug her and say, Merry Christmas. And she got all weepy and teary and said to me, I love you. She never apologized to me about what she had done to hurt me. But in that moment, that's what I took her to mean, was that she loved me, and she was sorry she had hurt me. And she had gotten to know me over the weeks and months of visiting and cleaning her home and just investing time and energy in her and her husband. Her opinion of me was obviously different, and I had a genuine love for her, but I had to invest some time and energy, and I had to sacrifice the idea of getting payback, the idea that she would ever ask to be forgiven. She never did. She never did ask to be forgiven, but she told me in tears that she loved me. That's one story. So I'm gonna give you the other story. This one's in my Bible study, Discarded, A Daughter's Journey to Reclaim Freedom and Forgive the Father Who Left Her Behind. In that, I tell the story of finding a way to forgive my father, who abandoned me at a very young age. By the time we got to the end of his life, and I had been contacted to spend some time with him, manage a little bit of his health and that sort of a thing, by the time that happened, he was pretty sickly. I had already made the decision in my head to forgive, but I wasn't loving him. And believers, I'm telling you, you can love those people that have hurt you. I know that sounds insane. I know it sounds insane. And it took me 40 years to go through this process of figuring it out, going through and actually investing not only in God's word about the idea of genuinely loving your enemies and praying for them, which the Lord commands us to do. I tell you, it's easy to pray for people you love, but you need to be praying and loving your enemies. The world does not endorse that. The world thinks we're crazy when we talk about that. So I realized I had to invest some time and effort, some energy into my father. And so that's what I did. It was not easy, because even after years of what he had done to me and his other children, he was still saying things like, I wouldn't change a thing. And I was going, you wouldn't change anything? You spent 5 minutes with me over the course of 30 years, 40 years, and you wouldn't change anything? No. He wouldn't change a thing. So I had to deal with that and process that. But during the time that he was basically being taken care of by hospice, I would go. and I would spend some time with him, and I would visit with him. And most of the time that meant him talking, or we'd watch TV together. I had to set aside the idea that he would ever pay me back as far as what he had done to hurt me. I had to just forget about the idea that he was ever going to invest back in me or ask to be forgiven. It wasn't going to happen. And like I said, and I've said this before, in later years, I realized he was probably just too mentally ill to understand what he had done to me or to my siblings. That was never going to change. I would go and I would visit. And there came the day when I walked into his house on a very hot summer August day, just a day before he passed. And he was laying there in his bed, completely uncovered, no blanket, on a mattress that was made of plastic, didn't have a sheet on it. There was nobody in the house. He was supposed to have a full-time nurse. And me, being a CMA, and working with the elderly for years, I had to buckle up and change his bed and change his sheets and put some pajamas on him that were found in the dryer and find a blanket and cover him up. And he was completely incoherent. He had absolutely no idea I was there. I had to put aside what I really felt for him at the time, which was kind of indifference and apathy, and had to invest in showing him some acts of love. See, it's really easy to say the words, I forgive them. It's easy to say it. And we all want everybody in the church to know that we forgive people who hurt us. But acting like you have forgiven someone is a whole different thing. Acting in love for someone who has hurt you is an entirely different matter. And it's not the kind of thing we can do on our own. It's not the kind of thing that we can simply say we're going to do and our heart's going to be different and it's just going to happen. It takes more than that. It takes God's Spirit coming into your life and saying, I know you don't love them now, but if you'll sacrifice what you think you deserve and you'll invest some time and effort in showing them loving things, I can heap burning coals onto their head and change their heart. Because listen, by the time you get there and you're talking about this, it's not about you anymore. It's not about what you've been through anymore. Do you understand that most of the time when we languish in our victimization and we hang on to our bitterness and our pain and our suffering, as long as we stay in that place and we don't invest love into other people, then nothing changes for us and nothing changes for them. It would have been amazing to me to have my father come and say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I left you and basically acted like you didn't exist. It would have been amazing. I would have had some real closure. He never did that. It would have been amazing to have those that physically assaulted me when I was little come and say, I'm so broken for what I did to you and I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. It would have been fantastic. It would have offered me some sort of closure about those events. It would have helped me to understand, well, maybe God was using my pain and suffering that they caused to break them and lead them to a place of repentance. But that never happened. And beloved, I'm telling you, it probably won't happen for you either. It won't. So what changes for you? What changes for them has to be your willingness to, in your pain and suffering or in your victimization, has to be your willingness to step forward and invest love and kindness and goodness back in them. And I don't know what that looks like for you. I know what it looked like for me, but I don't know what it looks like for you. I think God endorses this because Jesus said to us, it's easy to pray for people you love. I'm asking you to pray and love your enemies. And that can only be, listen, obedience happens first and then the change of heart, right? So when I quit smoking, I didn't have a heart that wanted to quit smoking. I wanted to keep smoking. And it's not, I'll tell you, sometimes I still want to smoke. I smoked for a long time. I was a rock singer. We smoked. But I finally got to the place where I wasn't thinking about it all the time. I had to set aside what I was feeling in order to change what I was feeling. Does that make sense? So investing in your enemy, investing in someone who's hurt you is all about seeing what God can do in their heart. You know that verse about him heaping burning coals onto their head? That's about you investing love and tenderness into someone who doesn't deserve it. That's what that's about. so that their spirit can be broken by your obedience to God to show love to them. And like I said, I realize that just sounds ridiculous to those who've suffered trauma. I'm telling you, I've got followers that have suffered years and years of trauma, abuse, and abandonment. And the truth does not change, whether it's been a one-time experience or 20 years worth of abuse. The word does not change. God's guidance to us does not change. His commands to us to love our enemies does not change. What does change is our heart toward our abuser. If we'll invest, deep breath, loving kindness into someone who doesn't deserve it, because you realize that's actually having the mind of Christ. When he invested in us, sacrificed for us, when we didn't deserve it, that's genuine mercy. And you are exhibiting the mind of Christ when you do that. And like I said, I know it's not easy. It's the reason why I offer a way for people to walk through that process so that we can meet and talk and pray through all of that. It's not going to happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. I promise you, I know exactly what I'm talking about there. But it does happen because God would never command us to forgive and love and then not equip us to do it. You see what I'm saying? If you want to know more about how to walk through this process of forgiving the unforgivable, God's called me to share that with you. So I have 2 Bible studies about that. They're on Amazon. Just look it up by my name. Also, if you go to freedom.christiandramaqueen.com, you can sign up for some free resources. I just developed a very quick and short 10-step process to forgive the unforgivable. And then, of course, if you go to calendar.christiandramaqueen.com, you can connect with me. We'll just have a short, free 30-minute appointment where we'll pray through whether or not you're ready to break that bondage of bitterness and find a way to forgive your abusers and your perpetrators. I know it sounds impossible, but the bitterness is only hurting you. Share the podcast with other people. You know I love you.